probably already know that colostrum is the first step in starting calves off right. But what are the other factors that come into play? Welcome to Beyond Colostrum, the show where we'll talk about how to optimize your calves with science and research that goes beyond just colostrum. We'll challenge the ways you typically manage your calves, and you might learn some new concepts beyond what you're already used to. Thanks for joining us as we go beyond colostrum.
Welcome to Beyond Colostrum Market Update. Today's episode is going to be a little different. There's been a lot of conversation recently about colostrum supply, pricing, and demand. And today we wanted to have an open discussion about what's happening in the market, why it's happening, where the industry is headed, and specifically where we as SCCL are positioned in all of it. Today, I am joined by SCCL CEO Michael Chubb and General Manager Chelsea Leavitt, who come with the inside scoop on what we are currently watching unfold when it comes to colostrum powder. So, Mike and Chelsea, how are we doing today?
We're great.
Thanks for having us.
Amazing. So to get us started, one of the biggest questions we continue to hear about colostrum and colostrum powder specifically is why has colostrum become so expensive?
So colostrums became more expensive for a few different reasons, and they've actually all hit the industry at the same time. We've seen new entrants come into the market, which has naturally shifted our landscape. There's more buyers competing for the same material, and which is pushing our prices up. At the same time, there's been cost pressures across production and supply chain, such as fuel and freight and energy that all have increased. These are showing up as surcharges and higher operating costs. On top of that, global competition for both raw and dry colostrum have intensified, tightening availability, driving prices higher, and when you combine all of these, it actually is no surprise that the market has moved the way it has.
So in terms of all of these challenges, how is SCCL addressing this?
Unfortunately, we have to actually address them with price increases because our increase of our production has gone up as well. So we are expanding our supply, we're expanding our production capabilities, and we are driving what we can into the market.
The space and opportunity for savings in operations is limited. Our production output is at its maximum, and we haven't added extra bodies to create that maximum output. So when the raw material cost has increased somewhere between 15 and 30% from half of the cows that we collect out of 4 countries, we are incurring a significant cost increase. The only place to rectify that is in the actual final price. And this seems to have affected pretty much all of the colostrum producers in North America. It is not just Saskatoon that has had to adjust pricing. And as long as demand for raw material continues to be at this, let's say, peak, I don't expect raw material costs to come down. Part 1. Part 2, the drive for additional demand for raw materials being driven by some trends in the human marketplace. Not an area that we focus on, not an area that we want to focus on, but the only place you can buy real colostrum in a liquid form is from cows that have just calved. And the new entrants in the marketplace have a different set of economics that humans are willing to pay for, and farmers and Saskatoon colostrum are not. So there's stress in the raw material supply. And we take every action we can to diversify our raw material supply by increasing where we collect elsewhere in Europe, in Canada, looking at more from Mexico. We're looking at other jurisdictions. But the reality is there's more people looking for the same raw material.
So is the competition, in terms of SCCL specific, is the competition with the human market an area of concern for us? Is that kind of what is limiting supply on shelves and to local producers?
I don't think the competition for raw material has driven down our supply. In fact, this year, we intend to produce 1.9 million kgs. Last year, we only did 1.4 million kgs. That's a massive growth in output. I think some of the availability issues has been a result of competition for different grades. As we produce at least 3 different grades of colostrum, the, let's say, higher grades, the top 2 grades, are oversubscribed. And that's partly because people are valuing their beef animals and dairy animals so much more than before. When a wet calf in California is going for $1,500 US, a lot of people are now starting to think about, maybe I should invest some more money into my calf's well-being, whether that's a Quebec calf, a California calf, or a Mexican calf. Demand is up across the board. So naturally, when there's way more demand than historical supply, sometimes markets get tight.
Yeah, as these cattle values rise and producers are becoming even more motivated to protect their calf health. So when a newborn is actually worth more, investing in these calves isn't actually just optional, it's actually risk management. So that combination is actually putting a pressure on what is already our limited supply.
And some of our competitors that historically service the animal health market have left serving the animal health market and moved their supply into serving human nutraceutical demands. That's a business decision. I'm sure prudent for the ownership of those organizations, but that is not something that we prioritize. We're founded by veterinarians that wanted to make a better life for calves, beef calves, dairy calves. And we're built to be around the calf. And Eurus, the company we are part of, the holding company we're part of, is everything around the cow. You know, better cows for a better world. Well, I'd like to say better calves for a better world. And that starts with colostrum. And some of our competitors have just decided to take advantage of human grade demands. And that has had some supply leave animal health markets. So that contributes also to a relative lesser availability when some of our competitors have walked away from servicing bovine health.
So, in response to that, seeing as this is a market that we were founded on it, we've been supporting them for over 30 years. How has our capacity shifted? Are we growing? How are we going to accommodate for this gap in supply and demand? How have we shifted recently, and how are we looking towards the future to be able to make sure that that gap is consistently filled?
So expanding capacity, it takes time and major investment. It's been one of the biggest reasons we've been so heavily expanding our own plant capacity. We're adding 31% more floor space, including a new freezer dedicated to raw colostrum, a new lab to test our IgG concentration, and 2 additional loading docks to keep product moving efficiently. This expansion is expected to be completed in September 2026. But not only that, physical expansion, but it's not our full part of our story. We really need to support our whole long-term growth, we need to diversify and expand our supply sources. We're adding 150,000 cows every year, which 1 cow equals a kg. Our raw colostrum is finite, and relying too heavily on a single region or supply base creates risk for us. By broadening where and how we source high-quality colostrum for our whole bovine colostrum, we're building a more resilient and reliable supply chain.
Yeah, we're certainly looking at other jurisdictions beyond the countries we already collect in. We're collecting in the Netherlands, in Scotland, in Canada, in the US, and some in Mexico. But we are exploring other jurisdictions that have potential for supply. Compliant supply in terms of animal health rules, compliant supply in terms of how those farmers decide to use or not use their extra colostrum. And in the global picture, I would estimate that there are probably less than 5 million cows of the 270 million dairy cows on the planet that are actually collected for commercial colostrum production. There is a lot of potential, but there's a lot of participation that isn't there yet. A lot of farmers simply say, I'm not interested, or they haven't been asked, or perhaps they're using all of their own bovine colostrum for their own management. When you think about the biology of a Holstein cow, when she calves, she should have in her four quarters somewhere around 15 liters, or if you will, 15 quarts of colostrum. If most producers feed maybe 4, perhaps 6 liters of colostrum, there is a significant leftover amount or extra. That's what we seek to find and provide into our system to be sampled, tested, graded, heat treated, and packaged appropriately. And that process, which we do and a few other companies do, takes a long time. And there is no one fountain of colostrum. You know, it only comes out of cow when she calves, and she only does that every so often. So that's supply chain growth. As Chelsea was saying, we have an intention to add 150,000 cows a year, even when you have them on paper. It still takes a full year to realize all of that colostrum through their calving cycles. So this part of the supply chain, we've been building it for 33 years to get to 1.5 million cows about now. It takes a long time to build. And that's, I believe, true for us and most of our competitors.
So what are the limiting factors of being able to scale overnight? Is there anything that we could do to be able to push out more powder more quickly so that we can address these supply concerns?
In a imaginary and perfect world, I guess we could just ask for 1 million cows to come into our facility. But the reality is we're a veterinary biologically regulated facility. We're a vet bio facility. That means we make a disease prevention claim on our product. And because we do so, both the CFIA and the USDA and a few other regulatory agencies that police vet bio facilities, that means people that make vaccines and us, we have to track and trace every component that goes into our product. And in our case, that just means a lot of cows. And I mean every farm and every cow needs to be known all the way through to the end product so that we could, if ever there was reason, trace backwards to a supply cow. So that kind of a supply chain has a few constraints on it. We actually have to have a lot of documentation and proof of animal health status and proof of the efficacy of each batch we produce. So it's not like we're a feed company where we can just order in some extra bulk and bulk it up and send it out because it's approximately correct. That is not how a vet bio facility works. We have specifications that we've made and that we live to and that we're regulated by. So the supply chain that we have takes a little bit more time and work to develop because we do actually need that traceability. And again, the cows only calve when they calve, and they only have what excess they have to sell at that time. And of course, we need to meet those farmers well before then to convince them that we should be offering them money for their excess colostrum so it can be part of this circular economy where we take that excess, we sample it, we sort it, we clean it, we dry it, we package it, we certify that it will do the job it needs to do, and then we sell it back into the market so that farmer can improve his or her calf. I mean, that cycle is what we exist for. And it's not something we do nilly-willy, like buying commodities in the market. We have 5,500 farms in 4 countries that send their very valuable excess colostrum to us in exchange for good money that we send directly to them with the intent of improving calf outcomes.
Yeah, cutting corners in order to just put a product out is not an option here. Our ultimate goal is to support that calf And so we want to do our due diligence in order to make sure that that's a quality product and a consistent product that's hitting the shelves so that it's doing the work that it intends to do. How do our partners play a role in that? SCCL does not operate in a silo. So what kind of influence are we getting from researchers and veterinarians to really ensure that our practices and our recommendations are up to snuff?
We collaborate with universities, both the professors that supervise research and the students that are both PhD and master students, looking at efficacy of use of colostrum in various stress case situations, from too hot to too cold, to recently transported, to Johne's challenges, to tuberculosis challenges, to respiratory conditions. We look at how we can help researchers apply primary science to learn more and know more about how best to treat calves with colostrum, and not just day one. In any stress situation, any mammal, be it a human, a dog, or a calf, can benefit from the antimicrobials and the growth factors that are in colostrum. These kind of things, we are only at the front edge of learning, and we're spending a lot of time and energy and some money and some research laboratory functionality to help progress the industry so we actually know more. Behind you, Sid, on your screen, it says SCCL, and underneath in tiny words, it says science, nature, and care. And that science part we take abundantly seriously, because who else is going to research the primary function and the many different modes of action of all the active elements in colostrum besides us? It's the only thing we do. Like, we are colostrum. That's what we say. So we're actually putting our money behind those words and investing in different universities to help us, and not just us, the industry, producers, understand more about the how and why supplementation and replacement and different applications and protocols work. It's not enough just to say it works. We always want to know the how and the why. So yeah, we're not alone, and we invest time and energy in other institutions so that the industry can be better, so the calf rearers can be better, so that veterinarians can know more, so that nutritionists can know more. It's an area ripe for further investment so that we can actually be smarter and do better.
Yeah, the collaboration in the space is stronger than ever between producers and processors and researchers. We're all pushing towards the same goal for the healthier animals and more reliable outcomes.
So the price of calves and cows has really skyrocketed. And that's largely due to small herd numbers. And we're kind of in this part of the cycle where value is high and we're now rebuilding the herd. So where does colostrum play a role in this market cycle that we're currently find ourselves in?
Realistically, the value of any mammalian beef product, be it from a Wagyu, an Angus, a Holstein, a Charolais, you pick it, is disproportionately higher than it was 6 years ago, even 2 years ago. And the total beef herd, if you just look at Angus, typical beef animals, is the smallest it's been in North America since the late 1950s. And the consumption behaviors of North American populace has suddenly not gone away from beef. It hasn't become chicken. There's still big beef demand. So that has certainly put, I think, a lot of pressure and attention on rearing traditional beef animals, but now also the beef on dairy cross animals that producers historically did not count on as a major revenue source. Now they do count on as a revenue source, and recognize that a $1,500 calf might just be worth putting $30 or $50 of colostrum into to achieve its potential, or even better or worse, to keep it alive. A lot of the bull calves historically have been neglected, no longer. So we are seeing a lot more demand from segments of the market that historically didn't care about the bull calves. So that is a very significant expansion of the potential number of users that might be interested in supplementing their own maternal colostrum or they're not sure the Angus mom gave enough, or quality or quantity or timing was questionable with a beef on dairy cross. There's a different level of demand than even 8, 10 years ago when a calf was worth $150. It has really changed the mindset of different producers. So there's far more willing participants to try colostrum to achieve the genetic potential of whatever your breed is.
We're seeing the growing interest, obviously, and that's being reflective of the demand into these colostrum products. But can you get into a little bit more about what the consequences of not investing in early life health management of that calf is, like in terms of the industry as a whole?
Well, I mean, you're investing in a creature that's, if you're growing it for a replacement, she's going to be a milk producer. She's got 4 hooves and several stomachs, and she's going to be processing your food. And if you underinvest in how that calf's gut develops, you're going to be underinvesting in the machinery that takes your feed and turns it into milk. That's just the long and the short of it. You take shortcuts early on, you're going to pay later. You can say the same thing about an animal that's going to be reared for beef. Efficiency of conversion of feed, whatever it is, depends on the development of the gut of the calf. That's 100% the case. And if you take shortcuts and you don't provide it with the local defense it needs in the gut or the immunological defense it needs to resecrete antibodies, you are starting a factory without some of its key operational personnel. It is extremely short-sighted, and it's very common that people don't think about the implications of your day one and first 14 days of how you treat that calf. That's the point when it is most amenable to influence by humans. Not when she's a milking cow, not when she has mastitis, not when she's in her 3rd lactation, when she or he is still under 2, 3, 4 weeks of age. We have the most ability at that stage to affect their achieving their genetic potential, be that for beef or dairy. And it's not just genetic potential, it's the health of the animal to focus on growing as opposed to just surviving. Many farmers for many years have said, oh, it's not sick, must be okay. Would you say that of an athlete? Oh, my child is not sick. He's going to be a great hockey player. Really? Okay. Let's think about the investment you're making or not making in that asset. Same thing with savings. I'm going to retire someday. If I only start saving for my retirement at 62 and a half years old, I'm not going to be too successful. Let's start our investments when you can have the most impact on the mature animal. Very same metaphor.
So in everything that we've discussed today, what should producers and people in the cattle industry, dairy, beef on dairy, beef alike, what should they keep in mind as we kind of navigate the current supply, demand, and opportunities that we're facing?
Manage your own maternal colostrum as well as you can. Honestly, if somebody has a herd of dairy animals and they don't have a proper system to manage their own maternal colostrum, by which I mean collect it, keep it clean, refrigerate it, freeze it properly, and then when you're feeding it, think about hygiene, guys. Don't feed calves with 30 bottles and tubes and nipples. And the number of sheds we've seen that is the last thought is disturbing. You have fantastic material that comes out of the cow. Sometimes you don't have physically volume enough, but what you do have, manage it appropriately. This is, to me, from beyond the sales of Saskatoon colostrum powder, this is the holy grail that the farmers need to think hard about. Think about the hygiene around your calf, beef or dairy. You can make the biggest change in your management and the health of those animals if you address hygiene first. And then if you are in the beef business, where most people don't generally manage their colostrum from the mums, it might be worth you having a look at how you calve, how close up you calve, what your mothering environment is, if they're close up in a shed, and if you have an opportunity to provide a supplement to that new calf, that is an opportunity where you can actually intervene and improve actually the mother and calf bond and give it a leg up to get going. I mean, if you're calving in the middle of Saskatchewan in February and it's minus 40, I think if I was a mother, I'd want a hand. and those calves definitely benefit from the colostral fat and the antibodies at that earliest stage. And that's actually why the company was founded. Dr. Haynes, a long time ago, she came from up north in Alberta where calving was in minus 40. And the only way you could get extra colostrum in case mom died or was too cold was to go to the dairy down the road. Well, the dairy down the road doesn't exist anymore. So if you don't have an alternative or an additional support mechanism in the form of a bag of colostrum from us or a bucket from us, then you just don't have that management tool. We're the dairy down the road, except we're in a bag and we're vet bio and we're certified by the animal health authorities that say this product has to work.
We also acknowledge the uncertainty out there right now with the lack of supply of colostrum. Just know that our commitment in this industry is to calves. So as soon as we can get our expansion going and start producing more, that is our commitment, is to these calves.
And I think that is a great place to end it. Thank you both so much for your insight in the market. I know that there is a lot of concern from the industry, and anything that we can do to support producers during this time of transition, I think is great. And I am looking forward to see how SCCL grows and how we continue to put the calf and the producer first.
Excellent. Thanks, Sid. Thanks, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Colostrum, an SCCL podcast. For more insights, resources, and to see our products, visit SCCL.com or check the show notes. SCCL has proudly supported producers worldwide for over 30 years, driven by research and innovation. Until next time, keep your herd thriving with science, nature, and care.